You know, I was right in the middle of listening to this clip of Donald Trump describing how he wants to deport Jack Smith, throw Jack Smith out of the country due to his investigation of Trump and due to him acting like a guardrail in our democracy. And while I was listening to this clip, this article popped up in my feed describing how 13 former Trump administration officials signed an open letter backing John Kelly's criticism of Trump. And when I say criticism, I mean he's saying Trump is a fascist who praised Hitler, who has no concept of the Constitution, which we will prove throughout this video. But I just thought it was funny that as I was listening to Donald Trump say Jack Smith should be considered mentally deranged and he should, quote, be thrown out of the country, I get this other article where 13 former administration officials said that Donald Trump is unfit, and there are many such cases. I honestly think more former Trump administration officials have come out saying that he is a fascist to the core that cannot touch power again than have actually come out and endorsed him, which says a lot. But we have 11 days to go until the election. It is getting close. It is coming down to the wire, and we have a lot of news to break down. So make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and let's jump right in with this article that describes how Kelly told the New York Times that Trump meets the definition of a fascist, and also said he observed the former president on multiple occasions praising Adolf Hitler. And the thing is, people were still denying that the story was true, even though we have reports going back to the early 90s that Trump kept Hitler speeches next to his bedside, reported by his former wife, Ivana Trump. You can look this up. People were still denying it, but now we have 13 former Trump administration officials all coming out and saying, yes, Donald Trump is a fascist to the core. He cannot touch power again. We witnessed it with our eyes, our own eyes. This article reads, more than a dozen former Trump administration officials on Friday came out in support of former Chief of Staff John Kelly, who went on the record this week to say the former president fits the definition of a fascist, would like to govern like a dictator, and has no concept of the Constitution. That is the big one that's so easy to prove. Before Donald Trump even stepped foot into the White House, he said that anybody who burns an American flag should lose their citizenship, which I would never burn an American flag. I think it's a little bit cringe to do. I would never do it, but that is our First Amendment right. We have the right to do that, and Donald Trump wants to strip that away. Since then, he has evolved that stance into saying that you should get arrested and deported if you burn the American flag, which is, again, fascistic to the core. He's also said, straight up, we should terminate the rules, laws, and regulations, even those found in the Constitution. In a new letter shared exclusively with Politico, the former Trump administration officials, some who have been outspoken against Trump for years and some who have just come out, said this is who Donald Trump is. Quote, the revelations General Kelly brought forward are disturbing and shocking, but because we know Trump and have worked for and alongside him, we were sadly not surprised by what General Kelly had to say, the letter states. And I'll tell you who signed the letter in 1 second, but let's listen to this clip of Donald Trump talking about deporting Jack Smith.
And you have to get the killers, the murderers, and mentally deranged. You have to get them out, and we should throw Jack Smith out with them, the mentally deranged people. Jack Smith should be considered mentally deranged, and he should be thrown out of the country.
Donald Trump's voice, the raspiness of his voice, makes him sound like an insane asylum occupant, number one, but number two, Jack Smith is an American citizen. Where are you going to deport him to? Where are you going to throw him out of the country to? And Donald Trump only wants to do this because Jack Smith is acting as a guardrail. Again, this perfectly feeds into what General John Kelly said. John Kelly said Trump values loyalty above most, so much so that he wanted German generals or Hitler's generals. He said that multiple times. He wanted that level of loyalty. And when Donald Trump says that Jack Smith needs to be deported for being a guardrail, that the media needs to have their broadcast licensing stripped away for being a guardrail, that John Kelly deserved to be fired for being weak. When Donald Trump is saying that John Kelly was fired because he was weak, he was saying that Kelly wasn't loyal enough. He wasn't loyal enough like a German soldier. Or a German general, sorry. It perfectly fits what John Kelly says, and it perfectly fits that Donald Trump is fascistic to the core. I want to show you this clip of Donald Trump in Indiana, Pennsylvania a few weeks back saying that Americans who criticize the Supreme Court for overturning Roe v. Wade should be imprisoned, in more words or less. He's saying that anybody who protests the overturning of Roe v. Wade, anybody who shows disdain for our Supreme Court members should be basically imprisoned.
Hits because of it. It should be illegal what happens. You know, you have these guys like playing the ref, like the great Bobby Knight. These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges.
These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges. He is saying right there that people should be put in jail for the way they talk. for the way they talk. How is the mainstream media not reporting on this? These people should be put in jail for the way they talk about our judges, the judges who overturned Roe v. Wade, and Trump clearly doesn't want people talking about that. Here's something that Donald Trump posted early in the morning today. It has some homophobic and some racist parts in it. Let's read through it. Kamala Harris has finally lost the Catholic vote, Donald Trump claims. Her and the Democrats' persecution of the Catholic Church is unprecedented. Her poll numbers have dropped like a rock, both with Catholics and otherwise. What took so long? RFK Jr. has been pushing hard for Catholics to vote for Trump. You really think RFK Jr. has a massive grasp on the Catholics in America? This is a clown show. He then says, Kamala, again, made a fool of herself at the radical left fundraiser, and after this, putting a very low IQ display on at fake news CNN's town hall, she was almost incoherent. Even as host Allison Cooper, who couldn't get her to make any sense, became agitated. He's saying Anderson Cooper's name is Allison Cooper, I'm presuming because Anderson Cooper is gay. That is straight up homophobia. Kamala is demanding late-term abortion in months 7, 8, and 9, and even execution after birth. If Trump is going to say this, why doesn't he post a video? Why doesn't he post a video of Kamala demanding a late-term abortion or execution after birth? And people aren't buying it, Donald Trump says. They never will. She is a radical left lunatic. It's cute that Donald Trump thinks that people are buying his BS, but I do want to say, this race is still scary close. I mean, there's still a very high chance Donald Trump could win, and it's because many Americans do view VP Harris as a lot farther to the left than Biden. There are many polls that show many Americans think VP Harris is a lot more radical than President Biden is, maybe because she's a black woman, maybe because she's from California, maybe because Donald Trump says that her dad is a Marxist. I don't know what exactly it is, but a lot of independent voters, which the election is won with independent voters, think that she is not the center-left person she is. So that's something we definitely need to fix, and it is a cause for concern. I don't want to give you guys false hope and think that we have it in the bag. We don't. Trump has a big chance, but let's go back to this letter 13 former Trump administration officials signed onto that could actually change at least some results. Quote, we applaud General Kelly for highlighting in stark details the danger of a second Trump term. Like General Kelly, we did not take the decision to come forward lightly. We are all lifelong Republicans who served our country. However, there are moments in history where it becomes necessary to put party over country. This is one of those moments, the letter states. Everyone should heed General Kelly's warning. The letter was signed by Trump administration officials, including Kevin Carroll, former senior counselor to Kelly, former Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews, former Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Elizabeth Newman, former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci, we have Miles Taylor, we have Stephanie Grisham, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and a former National Security Advisor to Vice President Pence, Olivia Troy. And the thing that you have to realize is, for all of these names that I just listed, this was once supposed to be a life-changing opportunity for them. Think about it. A lot of these people went to college for law or communications because they wanted to work in politics, and they got a job in the White House under a president who the Republican Party was at the time coalescing around in, say, 2017, 2018. But they all came out and said this was a terrible experience and we cannot re-elect Trump. My broader point is, these aren't rhinos. These are people who worked their entire life to work within the Republican administration, and they got that. They achieved that goal, and they could have so easily grabbed onto that power and not said anything, but they saw it get so bad that they, I don't want to say nuked their previous career path, but they completely pivoted career path. Now, the letter comes as Harris is leaning into her closing argument that Trump is a threat to democracy and poses a distinct threat if he's reelected. It's a message she and her campaign believes resonates with independents and Trump-wary Republicans who are concerned about the former president returning to the Oval Office. And just to take a step back and talk strategy for a second, I think the timing of VP Harris and John Kelly and this letter, so perfect. I was wondering about a month or two back why VP Harris never talks about January 6th. She never really seems to talk about Donald Trump's threat to democracy. She would bring it up here and there, but the reason why she didn't is because she didn't want to desensitize people to this. She didn't want people to get sick of her saying it, so she waited until we had 2 weeks left, basically exactly. 14 days left, and then John Kelly comes out. VP Harris, off the back of John Kelly's letter, blows it into the mainstream. President Obama starts talking about it. Everybody is now firing on all cylinders, describing how Donald Trump is a threat to democracy using real examples from when he was in the White House. So to take a step back, my broader point is VP Harris strategically waited to start using these big attacks until there were 2 weeks left, because imagine if from day one VP Harris was saying Trump is a threat. nobody would even be paying attention to this article right now. On Wednesday night, Harris's campaign conducted a focus group with undecided voters in a battleground state where the participants found Kelly to be credible and trustworthy, and his criticism of Trump, according to a campaign official, granted anonymity to discuss the findings, made some of them think twice about the former president. According to a campaign official, the Harris campaign learned that persuadable and undecided voters in recent battleground state polling, their target group, said that the former president's pursuit of unchecked power with no one to stop him is one of their top concerns. So now we just have to get the message out. We know, we've identified a concern that can persuade voters. Now we just need to get the vote out. It kind of reminds me, in a cynical way, about Comey's letter right before the election in 2016 that persuaded a bunch of undecided voters into thinking that Hillary Clinton was some sort of evil, nefarious force. Now we actually have John Kelly coming out, but it's not some made-up investigation. It's an actual story that could persuade undecided voters. On October, surprise. They also found that one of the concerning messages for them is on this point that, quote, those who worked closest with Trump while he was the president have left and said he should not be president again because of the risk he poses to national security. Let me read that one more time. Many undecided voters think that it's very, very powerful that many people who worked closest with Trump while he was president have left and said he should not be president again. And the release of the letter also comes as more Republicans defect from their party and publicly support VP Harris, including former Michigan Representative Fred Upton, which we talked about yesterday, and including the mayor of Waukesha, Wisconsin, a city in the largest Republican county in the state. Let me show you this clip of Trump as he continues to double down and say that RFK Jr. is going to be in charge of health.
Great job, Tulsi. Thank you. She's terrific. And we have, don't forget, Bobby Kennedy is going to straighten out our health. He's going to straighten out our health and all of that stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to have him working too much on the environment. I'm a little concerned about that with Bobby. I don't know if I want him playing around with our liquid gold under our feet.
I'm not gonna lie, I've said this a lot. The only thing more terrifying than Donald Trump getting back into power is the thought of RFK Jr. in charge of our health administrations, Elon Musk in charge of our regulatory bodies, and somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy in charge of cutting our government by 70%, as he said he wants to do before. All this stuff terrifies me. If it terrifies you too, make sure you stick around, because we are going to be hammering home MAGA with the next 10 days to go. No prisoners to take. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.